Hello and welcome. Society of Indian Defence Manufacturers is an industry body that has come into existence 6 years ago and has played prominent role in the Indian defence sector since the past couple of years, but is expected to raise its game in the coming year as well as in the future. And to lead that initiative is Rajinder Singh Bhatia, who is now the newly elected president of SIDM, and we are privileged to have him here in our studios talking about the future and the present of the Indian defence sector. So welcome to this program.
Thank you Nitin, thank you so much for inviting me.
So with your long experience in defence, and of course you continue to be with the Kalyani Strategic Systems Limited or Bharat Forge's defence segment or vertical, whatever you want to call it. But now you have a larger responsibility as president.
Yes.
And how does it, first of all, change your orientation, or what are you going to add to your existing work in terms of being president of SIDM?
See, basically what changes is that so far we were looking at our own company trying to make headway, which of course we have done very, very well in the last few years. But now it is more of a industry body. And as part of that initiative, whatever benefits come to my group will be secondary in nature, but primary function remains to become the voice of the industry and also become so-called the platform from where we can bring the issues of the Indian industry to the powers to be and try and bring about there's always a little scope for improvement, and that improvement is what we are looking at.
You're looking at synergy, you're looking at policy inputs, you're looking at how to improve maybe the delivery of contracts or signing of the contracts, all that. So as SIDM's president, what is the role that SIDM has played so far, and what do you envisage as president? What is your vision for SIDM?
See, the founding president and after that 2 subsequent presidents have done I would say, human service in this area. Today we have become the prime defense bodies in this country. The ministry recognizes us as the premier body which represents the voice of the defense industry, and they bank upon us to bring about all the issues, all the things which we need to do on policy advocacy. But policy advocacy is only a mean. The end result is that we need to achieve what we have laid down as our targets. So just to give you an example, some time ago, the Government of India laid down a target that let's have a $5 billion of exports by 27 or 28, and also defense production to reach 25 billion. Now, if you look back, today total production is about $12 billion. So we are looking at a growth of almost doubling or 100% growth in going into the next 3 to 4 years, which means a growth of 20 to 25% year on year. Now, all this is a major task. Now, for achieving all this, there are a lot of things which needs to be done. And just elaborating a little more on this, our defense budget over the last few years have only been growing at 9%. If we have to grow to 20 to 25%, how do I fill that void of?
Right.
Now that void was where India thought we could get into the export market.
Sure.
So that particular focus of bringing Indian industry manufacturing up from where it is to doubling in next 3 to 4 years and give a export orientation, I think would be the immediate task for us.
That's true. So, that way the task has begun for exports. I think they've risen substantially over the past 3 or 4 years, COVID notwithstanding. But like you rightly said, if we have to achieve the targets set by the government, it needs cooperation from everyone. Not just the industry, but also the bureaucracy, the services, end users, and it needs to have policy support which makes it easier to do business. In that context, as of course as a long-time defense executive and now SIDM president, what would you think needs to be done more? Because like you said, there's always scope to do more. And what is your wish list for doing more?
See, defense is a very interesting sector. You could have a product, you could have a market, but you still could not sell it. It's a monopoly. It's a government is the customer predominantly for most of your products. Now, if it is a monopoly, there is also a saying that defense will always remain in exports an instrument of foreign policy.
Sure.
So you cannot go around selling to everybody. It will always be dictated by who are your friends and who are foes, where do you want to go. So if you see, the involvement of the state is almost complete in this. We have had some landmark, I would say, policy initiatives which have been taken in the last 10 years. If you were to ask me, it's a sea change. Just to give you one example on opening up of the sector, in 2002, the defense procurement procedure was a secret document.
Sure.
and 2016, we were sitting across the table under the, God bless his soul, the defense minister, and we were actually, Manohar Parrikar were taking our advice to draft that document.
He actually formed a committee to give the advice, and I remember that DPP 2016, and where he introduced, in consultation with the industry, the IDDM category.
Buy Indian. So it is a sea change. If you see one second part, who could have imagined 5 years ago that you will split the Ordnance Factory Board, which is a government entity, into accountable corporate entities?
Sure.
So if there were two major things which were somebody was to ask me, I think there is a complete openness. There is a very clear direction on the parts of both the government, I would say the political establishment, and the services. What may be lacking in all this is that clear linkage of everybody pushing together, and that happens over time. Yes. We cannot just be complaining about ourselves. I think it is a true nature. The nature of this beast is same everywhere.
That's true. And like you said, everybody is learning. And one of the sea changes that I see as an outsider or as an observer, let me say, is that the services themselves are reaching out to the industry.
Correct.
Giving out their problem statements, giving out their wish list. As I'm asking you the wish list, they give you the wish list, and you are then developing products. So SIDM actually has worked as a catalyst, and could be a good bridge in this respect. So like you said about the defense budget, going forward, when you see, now we are going to get into election season, but when you see the next government coming in, what would be one or two things that you would like as an industry body for the government to do?
Okay, there are 2-3 things which are very important. What we are looking at is a vibrant defense industrial base.
Sure.
That defense industrial base which can more or less take care of all our requirements of the services, which means this is exactly what is Atmanirbharta about. Right. It is not about not having vendors outside, it is about having the Indian IP, and it is having Indian platforms which can be given to the service. Now what will enable this to happen? There are 2 things. You need a technology base, and you need a manufacturing ecosystem which should be able to convert this technology into products which are there. I will dwell a bit on technology.
Sure.
Now, how does technology happen? Now, technology could be research and development, which is generally the preserve of the state, like in this case DRDO or the CSIR. In fundamental research, they are the people who are doing it. Of course, they have to be supported by all the people. Industry is primary supporter. But the key thing which happens is on innovation and breakthrough technologies. Now, breakthrough technologies world over have come from startups.
Right.
And when we started with a simple scheme, and now I believe it's a reflection of a scheme being run by United States government called DIO,
right,
which we converted into IDEX in a very smart way.
Yes.
We actually kick-started 1,000 startups in that.
Sure.
And some of the technologies which are coming are phenomenal. So I think we are on a good wicket on the technology development. But if you see the 2 announcements which have been made, last year government announced that 25% of the R&D budget will be for Indian industry, private industry. I think intent is very clear, but operationalization of that intent needs to be done much more quickly.
True.
The second thing which I heard, and this was the most pleasing thing for the budget which was announced this year, when they talked about 1 lakh crore for development of deep technologies.
Yes.
And they specially mentioned defense.
Yeah.
So I think these are the impetus which we need to develop technology at.
Exactly.
And once we are able to do that, I think all the other things will fall in place to take it to the next level.
Going forward, yeah. You spoke about DRDO and research. The government has also had appointed a committee to look at reforms in DRDO. That committee report is out, and not out, but it's been submitted to the government. What would you wish for DRDO to do, in the sense, like you said, fundamental research is there, preserve some of these strategic sectors, they must have their say and their control. But as an industry executive and industry prominent leader, would SIDM now look at private Indian companies to also push for wherever they can, once they get orders from the government or from the services or the MOD, to also earmark some portion of it for future R&D?
It has to be done. But the key point is how to do it.
Right.
So this will bring to my one wish list and one way forward. Now, while DRDO reforms are welcome, I am sure they are well thought out. We need to still get to the actual, black and white or the brass tacks of what they are suggesting. But I am sure this is a wonderful study done. I am sure it will also get implemented as we go forward. This will probably take DRDO to act more like DARPA, where they become the parent body, but maybe the research and development gets moved down at least to beyond a TR level 3 or 4 or 5 into the industry.
Right.
That's a welcome change. But the key point here is that there is a second thing which we need to do. India does not incentivize research and development funding.
That's a key point.
And this is one of the key points I would like Indian industry to be given.
Right.
There used to be income tax benefit. You used to get twice the discounting. So if I was spending 100 crores, I was at least saving 30 crores on, expenditure on income tax. So you were actually ending up, discounting a bit of your expenditure, but it was encouraging many more people.
Absolutely.
This is one thing I am sure as an industry body, we are wanting that incentivize research and development. The moment you do that, I think much more will happen.
That's a great point, and I'm sure the government will take note of this, because our platform is something that
they listen to. Well, but there's one more point which I want to
tell me.
Government came out with a very good scheme of MAKE.
Right.
And what was MAKE? MAKE started with initially 80% funding by government, 20% by the enterprise. Then it became 70-30. In between it became 90-10 during Mr. Parikar's time. I am not worried about 70-30, 80-20. We are prepared as Indian industry, we are prepared to spend our share. But need is to have 10, 20, 30 programs moving.
Right.
See, you spending 7 rupees, I spend 3. There's so much more capital being put into research and development.
Absolutely.
And you are doing, this is research and development which is focused towards projects.
Right.
This will be a game changer.
Exactly.
So we need many MAKE programs, but not only on paper, they need to be pushed.
And they should be implemented quickly. The timeline has to be squeezed.
And this could be one of the ways to spend the 25% direct.
Yeah, exactly. So that's another good suggestion. I think we'll take it forward in terms of our writings, our advocacy that you're doing. We will do it through our platform. You just had, I'm shifting focus a little bit. This week you had in Indus-X, which is an initiative of the Indian industry and the Departments of Defense on the US side and MOD on the Indian side, supported by the Chambers of Commerce and SIDM on the Indian side, that is USIBC on the US side. What was the experience like?
So, firstly, if you ask me experience, I thought there was a sea change in the atmosphere, what it was prevailing few years ago.
Right.
There's a little bit of confidence building which was hitherto missing in these kind of interactions. But the critical point was that we started off with a program called DTII some time ago, did not make much headway. But here was 2 platforms which were given out where we could have started to work. The first platform was called Initiative on Critical and Emerging Technologies, called ICET. ICET was the, I would say, platform. The path to achieving that kind of collaboration was in Indus-X.
Right.
Now what has happened is ICET is talking about Initiative on Joint Development, Joint Co-Production, Co-Development, Co-Production. But to start this, it is not very easy. Platforms, restrictions, technology restrictions, then at the end of the day you need to also fit the bill for Indian requirements which are quite different from the US requirements. But what Indus-X did was to convert immediately some of the initiatives into a opportunity. So what we now said was, why 2? Now 2 winners were announced yesterday and I was there. I think there was a feeling that we could have probably 20 challenges, 40 challenges, 100 challenges. Once we start engaging, this will take us next level.
Sure.
But there was one more important part which I would like to share with you. If you take a look at the global market, almost 40 to 50% of the total spend in defense is in one country, United States of America. It's unfortunate that while we have grown a lot in our skill sets, our exports are $200 billion only with trade.
Yes,
Value is 200,
bilateral trade, yeah.
Bilateral trade is $200 billion. But I heard, why can't it be 800 billion? And one of the ways is that India should get into the supply chain of United States.
Right.
And for that there are some, I would say, agreements which are required, which need to be put into place.
Absolutely.
So one is called SOSA, which is under active consideration by Government of India and US government.
Right.
And second is DFARS, where India must become a qualifying country.
Sure.
The moment this happens, the complete market which is there in US is also available to
Open
Indian,
to the Indian
suppliers.
companies, yes.
I think that can be a game changer going forward.
That's an excellent point that you've made. And here again, the last question that I want to ask you on the MSMEs in India, in defense. The MSMEs can play a vital role both in the startups as well as becoming part of the larger supply chains. SIDM, of course, is Indian defense manufacturers, but what role and what support you can sort of extend to the MSMEs in India, and what do they need to do to come up to the standards that are required?
There are two things to it. You are right. MSMEs are the backbone for any such thing. Actually, a good industry, defense industry, is on the working on the back of MSMEs. You have a very good structure. You have lead integrators. You have tier 1, which are subsystem suppliers. You have tier 2, which are component suppliers, and tier 3, which are smaller companies. This is the way ecosystem functions.
Exactly.
Now, the key point is, how do we allow this ecosystem? So there are 2-3 initiatives which we are taking. One was that, incidentally, today SIDM is almost about 600 people, and nearly 500 of them are MSMEs.
The members, you mean?
Members.
Yeah.
So when we take a look, and we are looking at taking this figure to maybe 1,000 in the next 2 to 3 years. The key point, what do they need? They need a platform, because half the time they don't understand what is to be done, where to go. So that platform is being provided by SIDM. We are also in the process of discussing with Government of India to arrange for, well, it's a wish list, so I cannot say, funding for these people on certain concessional terms.
Okay.
This is a must for startups.
Right.
You know, otherwise they will land up in valley of death and remain there.
Sure.
So there is a very positive approach, and we have had number of meetings with MOD, and the Secretary Defense Production is fully backing on it, and we are looking at some kind of a SIDB kind of a setup, or somebody set up which can bring capital to these people for long term at very concessional interest rates.
Right.
That is part one, to take care of their financial well-being.
Right.
The second part is, we are in the process of establishing a Defense Export Promotion Council.
Okay.
And the market has to be all over.
Right.
You know, all these MSMEs can get into supply chain of many other people.
Exactly.
And that platform will ensure that we are able to provide opportunities in a quasi-government authority kind of a manner. And today only we had long discussions on this subject. Government is fully inclined towards setting it up quickly. And I think that is the second platform we will provide.
Excellent. So this will help. What is the Government of India's one-line policy, if I have to sum it up, is make in India for the world.
Correct. And everybody has to contribute to that. This cannot be a story written by private industry alone. This has to be DPSUs, this has to be private industry, and this has to be MSMEs and startups.
Great. So on that note, I think we can end this conversation. It's a positive note. So do keep visiting our studios and giving us these insights into what the defense ecosystem is going to do. And I wish you all the best for your tenure as SIDM president going forward.
Thank you, Nitin, and we'll take on your offer.
Thank you. So that was Rajendra Singh Bhatia, the newly elected president of SIDM, and someone who now will be the lead player as far as the industry opinion, industry voice is to be expressed to the people in the authority or in the government. That's what I wanted to discuss with him, which we finally did. So do keep watching Bharat Shakti. You know where to reach us, and your feedback is extremely important. And of course, spread the word about what we do in a limited manner, but something that is important. Our motto, as all of you know, is self-reliance and defense, and I think this plays in what we do as far as the industry is concerned. So for the time being, that's all I have. Goodbye.